Hello friend and welcome back to my channel, Blue Nose Trading. My name is Tori Solis and today I'm going to be testing Mottled Steel from KyMudworks Glaze collection. I'll be testing this glaze on 7 different clay bodies as well as on a textured speckled stoneware planter pot. I'm testing on a planter today instead of my usual textured mug because as I was looking over this jar, I noticed that the Food Safe logo has been crossed out. I like to test glazes on a lot of different clay bodies to get a rough idea of how a glaze is going to behave on different colors or surfaces. Everyone out there is working with different kinds of clay, and maybe one of these tiles can help you guess at what might happen for you. As always, I strongly recommend that you make your own test tiles and fire them in your own kiln. Fire your tiles exactly how you would fire your normal work. There's a lot of different factors that go into how a glaze is going to turn out. The best way to see how a glaze is going to work in your kiln on your clay with your application is to do your own tests. My favorite way to mix up my glazes is using my drill and an egg beater attachment. After mixing, it's a good idea to poke around at the bottom of the jar with a stick or something to make sure there isn't any mineral clumped up down there. Sometimes I forget this step, but it's better if I don't, and it's better if you don't. This is a cone 6 glaze that's listed as lead-free and non-toxic, but the makers of this glaze do not recommend this glaze for food contact surfaces due to its matte finish. I'm going to be brushing glaze onto my test tiles. I brush my tiles in 1, 2, and 3 coats with the thickest coat at the top of the tile. I fire my tiles hanging on a high alumina rod to see how the glaze will perform on a vertical surface. In this way, I'm testing for running. With the thickest coat of glaze at the top of a tile, if a glaze is going to run, it has somewhere to go. Looking at the textured speckled stoneware planter, this glaze has a smooth, buttery matte finish with lots of gray and metallic interest. The speckles show through very slightly. The glaze is true to its name and it has a mottled surface. This glaze doesn't break over the edges of textures like some others that we have tested. You do seem to get a little bit more of the darker mottling in the depressed areas of the piece that would have held more glaze, but the difference is very subtle. This glaze creates a patterning effect on a flat surface just fine. This glaze appears to be stable, and I see no signs of running or movement on this piece from the original application. On my white stoneware tile, this glaze is perfection. The mottling pattern is gorgeous. I especially love how this glaze looks at 2 coats on this tile. At 2 coats, it seems to be giving more of that dark and gray variation. The surface is a perfect butter matte, no pitting, running, or other defects to be seen. The Laguna B-Mix tile has a brighter and lighter effect overall as compared to my white stoneware. There's a slight drip of movement on the left side of this tile. I actually went back and double checked that this was not just a drip that I created with my application, and it was not. So this glaze can have a bit of movement on some bodies in thick application areas, which is great. That means that this is a true matte glaze. A true matte glaze can run and still be matte because the matte is a result of crystal growth in the glaze. This glaze is clean on Laguna Frost porcelain. The gray is bright and the contrast between the light and dark mottling seems to be turned up on this body, which is good. I love that for you porcelain people. If you're going to suffer with such a fuzzy clay body, you deserve great glaze effects. On my spectacular clay body, we can see the same effect as we've seen on the larger planter. The speckles are muted but not totally gone. The fit and finish are a lovely matte. The contrast between the light and dark gray is less pronounced on this body than it has been on some of the white bodies, and the effect feels a little more like a static. There was a tiny bit of movement at the edge of the 3-coat test line. The effect on Laguna Speckled Buff is similar. You can see the speckles peeking through as metallic flecks, which is interesting. There was slight movement at the edge of the 3-coat line. In my opinion, 2 coats seems to be best on this clay body. My red stoneware body had a totally different effect than we've seen so far. In thinner application, this glaze seems to come out mostly gray, but in the 3-coat section there was slight movement and a great deal of dark gray coming through. The mottling pattern on the dark and light grays is much different on this tile, and it seems to be a little bit more fluid. There was some very tiny pitting in the thicker application areas as well on this tile. Laguna B3 Black mostly hates matte glazes, and this one is on the edge of acceptable. The surface has some minor pitting and thicker application areas, but since we all already agreed not to put this on food surfaces, oh well, right? At 2 coats, the pitting is minimal and the modeling is a static that seems to favor the lighter gray. All around, this is a wonderful buttery mat with interesting light and dark gray modeling. In my experience here, this glaze seems to often look its best at 2 coats of application on white, stoneware, or porcelain clay bodies. This is a true matte and it can drip or move a tiny bit on some clay bodies in areas of thick application. Overall, this is a wonderful decorative glaze that I'm sure you can find success with. Thank you so much for tuning in this week. I hope you enjoyed learning more about this glaze and can make use of this information in your own studio. If you'd like to help support my channel so I can get more glazes to test for you, consider becoming a supporter of my channel at patreon.com/bluenosetrading or subscribe here on YouTube. If you'd like to see all the ceramics I currently have available for sale, visit my website, bluenosetrading.com. If you'd like to stick around for more art videos, be sure to subscribe to this channel, Blue Nose Trading. Thank you so much for being here until the end of the video. Remember that you have great ideas that are worth exploring, drink enough water, and I will see y'all in the next video.